Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us today. Welcome to the webinar with the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub. I am going to go over a few quick housekeeping things. First, my name is Elise Earhart, and I am the Outreach Specialist for Hamilton County Resource. I'll be hosting and doing a little bit of behind the scenes today. And we have our Q&A box at the bottom of your panel. And that is where we will be asking you to put questions today, if you have any, throughout the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end to hopefully answer all of your questions and go through those. But please put those in the Q&A box, not the chat box. Just the Q&A box would be great. And then also, there is a closed captioning box on your panel. I have put that on. If you would prefer a live transcript, you can enable it by clicking on that button and clicking the button that says Enable Live Transcript. If you do not want it, that's totally fine. Don't even worry about it. And then the last thing is that this meeting, this webinar is being recorded, and I will be emailing that to all the participants at the end, probably at the end of the day. And if possible, I'll be posting it to YouTube. So I will send you all that link. And now I'm happy to introduce to you Colleen Mixwigan. She is the Managing Director of the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub, and she is going to take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for this presentation. We're always kind of happy to get the word out about the hub and what we do. And we'll just kind of get right into it here. As long as it forwards here. And I think PowerPoint is not cooperating. So let me get out of here for a second. Let me stop sharing and then let me get back in here for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go from this one and kind of start from scratch and see if it'll let me go. Okay, hopefully this will work. There we go. Okay, so just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background on sort of where the hub started, how we started. We officially formed in February of 2020, so about a month before COVID. But COVID actually was a bit of a blessing in disguise because it gave us time to sort of get all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, for to be able to open the hub. So we were created as a resource to bring together 4 different existing independent programs that had been across the Cincinnati area. But for most of the different programs, it was once a year, twice a year, maybe 3 times a year at the most. And it was just not as effective as it could have been if we'd had a permanent location. So the 4 locations or the 4 programs that kind of went into making the hub were Zero Landfill. So that was around since 2008. But it had been run since 2010 by Carrie Harms, who is now our current associate director. And then I was at Mount St. Joseph University. I was both the chemistry lab manager and then the sustainability committee chairperson. We started doing electronics recycling days in 2012. One of the Sisters of Charity had actually started that, but then when it got to the point where she couldn't do it just because of health issues, she kind of punted it, so to speak, to the sustainability committee, and we took that over. And then in addition to that, we started at about 2017, what we called Beyond the Bin collections. And this was actually inspired by something that was done at St. Anthony's Church. And they would collect things that could be recycled, but that couldn't go to your recycling bin. So they would collect products, packaging that could go to Terracycle. They would collect shoes, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of picked that idea up and ran with it. So we'd have collections one time a month, or 1 week a month for the school year. And then the last program was Pleasant Ridge Montessori. They had a Terracycle collection program that was run by the person who's now our board president, Erin Fay. And they would collect different types of packaging, whether it was like Capri Sun packs or chip bags and things like that. And then they send those to Terracycle to be recycled, and then they get a small amount of money for those. And then our mission and goal is to change how people think about things. We want people to not just think about the utility of something for the time that they have it, but to think about where does it come from? How does it get to them, whether it's, you know, across the ocean or something local, and then to provide, and then figure out sort of after they're done using it, where is it going to go? Because if you throw something away, it doesn't actually go away. It would go to a landfill if you don't actually send it for reuse or recycling. And we wanted to provide a place where people could bring things that could be recycled or reused so that they could have sort of a second life instead of ending up in a landfill. So all of those 4 previous programs combined to expand what we did, take even more things, and make it easy for people to drop it off in just one place. And the reason that we're doing this is just to help mitigate the effects of climate change. So sort of the more oil and fossil fuels are used to create new things, the more climate change is going to be a problem. The more we can create outlets for reuse and recycling and divert things from the landfill, then the less climate change issue there will be. We know this is a drop in the bucket as far as what the problem is, but it is a big problem. And the more drops, so to speak, that are helping, then the better things will be in the long run, I guess is the best way to put it. And then the way that we fulfill our missions are what we call collections and connections. So we have drop-off events. We've, like last year, we had 7 electronics recycling drop-off days, just different Saturdays throughout the fall, spring and summer. And then we actually have drop-offs during regular business hours. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. And we're just trying to make it convenient for people to bring sort of all of their stuff that could be reused or recycled, but that can't go in their recycling bin. One place for them to drop it off so they don't have to go to like half a dozen different nonprofits to take the shoes, to take the, you know, the denim, to take office supplies, things like that. And then we also refer people to other organizations if they have something that we can't take. We've gotten calls about mattresses. We've gotten calls about, you know, building materials, things like that. So we have other organizations that we are aware of that can take these things if it's something that we cannot take. And then we try to find new outlets for items. For example, we didn't know that there was a place that actually takes trophies, but one of our board members saw an email or a newsletter or something saying that there was a place in Wisconsin that would take trophies. They kind of clean them up and then they give those to Special Olympics for them to use for their events. And then we're also still trying to find a place that can take the ice packs that come in a lot of the prepackaged kind of meal prep packages that people got a lot of during COVID. Matthew 25 Ministries will take some of those, but not quite the quantity that we get in. But we try to find new places for things like that when people have a lot of something that seems very easily recyclable, reusable. We looked to see if we can find a place to take them. And then the other thing that we do is that we also offer items for reuse for free to the public. So we've had Girl Scout leaders, we've had teachers, we have had just artists, but then also just, you know, general people. We've had people that sell on Etsy and eBay come in to take packing materials for reuse so that they don't actually have to buy their own. And then it's just that much less that needs to be created. And then we also fulfill our mission by trying to educate the public about sort of what we do, how recycling works or maybe doesn't work, kind of depending on what the item is. And then just trying to help clarify any questions that people might have, whether it's a specific question about do we take something or not? But we've also had questions about, okay, why is it so hard to recycle number 1 clamshell plastics, things like that. And then we do this a couple of different ways. We've got our website, which has a lot of information. We've got our social media, which for us is just Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then we are always happy to answer emails and phone calls. But then we also try to promote other organizations in the region and around the world, especially if it's something that we ourselves cannot take care of. For instance, composting. So if somebody comes to us with a question for composting, we can try to say, okay, these are some of the local organizations in your area, which may be our area, may not be our area, that can help you with what you're trying to, you know, to try to source somewhere else. And then we also do tours of our facility. And a lot of those have been what people have called very eye-opening because we have 20,000 square feet. And when you see everything together and realize that it's only been since April and that we've actually shipped stuff out, it's kind of eye-opening to see how much can be recycled and reused that you don't necessarily think of in your day-to-day life. And then we take a lot of different things. If you kind of were on a little bit earlier, you saw that first screen with all the different circles, and that's most of what we take, but even then it's not everything. Some things we take for free, and that's just a lot of plastics, and you can kind of, I won't go through the whole list here, but there's a lot of different things that we send, especially to Terracycle, or to other nonprofit organizations where we don't necessarily have to pay for it to go out our door. And then there's things that we take for a fee too, which we'll get to in a minute. But a lot of these things are things where, say, like for egg cartons, we've got farmers markets. Farmers will take those for reuse. Footwear goes to Souls for Souls. Styrofoam goes to Eco Development up in Mason. So there's lots of things that you can bring in, entire carloads, to be honest, that you won't have to pay anything to bring it to us. But then, and then, oh, sorry, this is more specifics for some of the Terracycle items. So Terracycle, for those who aren't familiar with it, that is a for-profit company that's in, I think, New Jersey. And they work with companies like Kroger and Colgate and Procter & Gamble to try to recycle their products and their packaging. So we collect the Terracycle packaging, we send it to Terracycle, we get a small amount of money for helping with the collection. And then the companies like Procter & Gamble and Kroger will pay Terracycle to actually recycle those products. This is just a very small portion of what we take. We actually have, I think, 40 different, what we call Terracycle brigades or Terracycle collections, and those are all listed on a Terracycle guide on our website if you want more information. And then Zero Landfill, so that was, again, that previous program that started in 2008 here, and they take supplies, or I should say materials, I guess, from architectural firms, design firms, things like carpet squares, things like tile, wood flooring samples, fabric swatches, wallpaper books, pavers, things like that, and then miscellaneous design elements. That's a little bit of a catch-all, but we've got some different things where there's carved wood, or there's some sort of tile that's a little bit special, not just a general something that you would tile the floor with kind of thing. So we take all of those things when people are clearing out their design sample libraries and things like that. We actually had, there was one organization that moved from one building to another building, and they had probably 200 decent sized storage totes of just everything that they'd ever had in their library. And that all came to us. And then we have that available for anybody to take. So we've had Girl Scout leaders come and take wallpaper books and turn those into sit-upons. We've had, there was, when Carrie did the program separately before it became part of the hub, there was a veterinarian up in the Dayton area who took all of the tile that he could, and because it was all mismatched, it kind of just all went together, and he tiled his entire veterinary practice. So we've had a lot of cool things that were made from the things that we've kept out of the landfill. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do take some things for a fee. This is mainly because all of these things have to go somewhere else, and we have to pay that somewhere else to be able to process them. The biggest thing is the electronics. And this is literally anything that you can plug in, anything that's got a battery, with the exception of things that would have a biohazard. So we cannot take a blood glucose monitor, for example, but any other electronic, microwaves, blenders, vacuum cleaners, TVs, all of those kinds of things we can take. We can also take all kinds of light bulbs and then the lighting ballast for fluorescent lighting. We can take all kinds of batteries. We can take car seats. But for the car seats, when you do bring them in, you need to kind of take any of the fabric and the straps off. And we can take sort of the plastic part and then any sort of parts to the buckles that are metal and plastic. We can also take bike helmets. Again, you need to kind of take the straps off, but we can take the actual foamy / plasticky part. And then we can take smoke detectors, and then we can take tires, and then ink and toner cartridges as well. So most of those are delineated on our fee sheet, which is actually on our website again too, just to kind of keep this from looking too cluttered. And then also, if you ever have any questions about what the fees are specifically, you can say, okay, I've got XYZ, what would the fee for this be? And then something that's new that we just started charging for January 1st was electronic media. Last year, we had taken VHS tapes, CDs, DVDs, all of those things for free, because the original quote that we had gotten for shipping these off was going to be, I think, $450. Well, kind of when it came down to brass tacks, so to speak, and we realized how much we had, it was going to be a lot more. And it was closer to almost $4,000 to ship all of those off. So we had to start charging for those because we had, I believe it was 8 Gaylords, and Gaylords are boxes that are big enough to sit on top of a pallet. So they're really big boxes. They really got heavy, especially the ones with CDs and DVDs. And then we had to pay for that to ship off. And then as far as where we are, because people do sometimes have a hard time finding us. So we are in Lower Price Hill. The easiest way to usually find us is either off of Route 50 or coming from 75 and taking the, what I guess is, I think listed as Guest Street, maybe coming from one way, and then Freeman Avenue coming from the other. When you get to our building, and the picture on the left there shows what the building looks like from the back. The hub entrance, you can't even see it because it's behind the Compost Now bin, or the Compost Now van. And that's kind of, it's a big garage door that we open up for people to come in to our collection area. And then this is what that garage door looks like, and then a little bit of what it looks like inside. So when you come in through the garage door, and you can kind of park anywhere in that side of the lot, we have different bins, different boxes for all of the different things that we collect down there. We usually have at least 4 volunteers sort of helping people get things to where they need to go. So if you kind of come in the door, especially if it's your first time and you're looking like a deer in headlights, somebody's there and they will usually say, hey, can I help you, take your stuff and show you where it goes. The reason that we have people collect the people sort things down there is that makes it easier for us when we get everything upstairs. When we originally opened, we tried doing it where everybody we put basically everything on a freight elevator, took it up, and people upstairs sorted it. But that doesn't work when you've got 120 people coming in to bring things and you've got 4 people sorting upstairs. So we call this kind of the teaching people how to fish. So it is, it's a little bit more labor intensive for the people bringing things to us, but we literally could not do it if we had to do it all ourselves. We could not keep up with the amount of things that are coming in. So again, we've got sort of big bins for some of the big things like styrofoam, smaller boxes and bins that you can kind of see there on the right for some of the things for Terracycle. And we always have volunteers available to help get things to where they're going. And then if you have time and you want to go shopping, quote unquote, for any of the things we have for reuse, you can go up to our 4th floor. So this is about half of our 4th floor warehouse. Kind of looking to the north from sort of the middle of the warehouse. This is the area where we have all of our plastics, all of our electronics, all of our light bulbs and batteries. And what would be sort of behind you as you're looking from this viewpoint in the warehouse is the reuse area and the zero landfill area. So again, this is about half of the space that we've got. It's 20,000 square feet. It is not air conditioned, so it gets a bit warm in the summer. We've got all of the windows, luckily, that we can kind of get a cross breeze. But we also do have to bring everything up on freight elevators to get it up here. We would love to have the 1st floor, but we can't afford the first floor for this building. So it kind of is what it is. But we've been very actually happy with what we have been able to do so far, just since April 1st when we opened our doors. As far as where things go, a lot of the places are nonprofits. We do have a couple for-profit places that they go to, but Recycle Force, so they are a nonprofit out of Indianapolis, and they are, even though their business is recycling electronics, kind of their mission is to get people who are previously incarcerated job training, a steady job history, and kind of get back on their feet. We've worked with them since 2012 at Mount St. Joe, and they were a fantastic organization to work with. I cannot say enough good things about them. So we were very happy to continue that friendship. The Civic Garden Center, that's where we take a lot of the plant pots that we get in. And then Cincinnati Permaculture Institute is the same, where they've got different, Civic Garden Center has what they call the plant sale every May. And if people have irises to divide or black-eyed Susans to divide out of their yard, and they don't have any place to put the stuff that they're taking out, we can donate the plant pots to them so that they've got a place to go with that. Souls for Souls takes all of our shoes, and they have places all around the world where people will have the shoes for reuse, and then anything that is not reusable, they will take apart and kind of use the raw materials of that to sort of make whatever they can as an income stream. Veolia is a for-profit company, but they take all of our batteries and light bulbs. They're based in Wisconsin. Matthew 25 Ministries, a lot of people are familiar with them here with their disaster relief. So they get a lot of our medical supplies. So crutches, walkers, wheelchairs, all of the clean pill bottles that we get in, we send to them. Blue Jeans Go Green. So that is a program where they will take any denim, they basically shred it up, turn it into insulation for houses, and a portion of what they create every year goes to Habitat for Humanity for their builds. Brightmark is the company that takes most of our plastic. They are based in Ashley, Indiana, which is about 3.5 hours away from here. And they can take all 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then what we call no number plastic, which is plastic that doesn't have the little recycling triangle on it. And they turn that into diesel fuel, which they actually sell to BP. So that's kind of their revenue stream for that. And then they can actually make naphtha too, which is a building block for new plastic. So that is slightly more circular economy than most other recycling is, other than, or most other, so there's mechanical recycling where, like, if you've got bags, they can be turned into bags again. A lot of recycling that's taken would just be burned, and then that plastic or whatever is fuel. At least for this, some of the plastic comes back as plastic again in the future, if that all makes sense. And then the last thing Brightmark gets out of their process is industrial wax. So that can go in crayons, it can go in makeup, things like that. Green Disc, that's the company that takes all of our electronic media. So they're the ones that take the VHS, the CDs, et cetera, et cetera. They're actually just in Dayton, so that's kind of nice and convenient. They're also for-profit. Terracycle, as I mentioned earlier, they are for-profit in New Jersey, and they're the company that works with companies like P&G, Colgate, things like that, and we send things to them. Eco Development, so they're in Mason, and they can take all of our what we call packaging styrofoam. So they cannot take the food styrofoam, sort of clamshells or cups and things like that. Those can go to Brightmark to be recycled by their process, but Eco Development can take all of the kind of the white, I don't even know what you would call it, the white packing styrofoam that might come on a TV or a computer. They take all of that, they do what's called densifying it so that it takes up maybe 1/10 of the space that it would have sort of as you brought it in. And then they sell that to Owens Corning, and Owens Corning uses that for insulation for houses. And then Tire Discounters, most of you are probably familiar with them. So they take our tires that we get. As far as how we're funded, a lot of what we've had so far. So again, we've only been open not even a year. It's been 9 months since April 1st that we opened our doors. Almost half of our funding this year came from individual donors. About a little over a quarter has come from the recycling fee. So that's the things that we charge for the electronics and things like that. And then the grants, we've gotten a couple of different grants, both to buy our equipment for our electronics recycling, and then to buy our cargo van and to buy our baler for plastic to kind of make the plastic a little bit more cost effective to ship. And then we do get a small amount from Terracycle and then a small amount from sponsorships too. But we're hoping to kind of grow the sponsorship part down the line, and also the recycling, the fees, the program fees. And we also too, just so you know, we are entirely volunteer run. We have one part-time employee who is our new warehouse manager who just started end of last November. And we've had a pretty good impact, we would say, since April of last year. We've had 80 tons of items that we've sent for recycling or reuse. That includes 49 tons of electronics, 9 tons of plastic. So that's basically 2 semi-loads that we sent there. 3 tons of styrofoam, which is 3 semi-loads of styrofoam. 1,500 pounds that we shipped to Terracycle. So that's Kroger packaging and Oreos packaging and toothpaste tubes that are empty and things like that. 1,800 pounds of shoes that were sent to Souls for Souls. Almost 9 tons of items that were taken at Zero Landfill events. So that's, again, the tile, the wallpaper, books, things like that. 651 pounds of art supplies, and that went to various artists, and then also places like Indigo Hippo. And then 539 pounds of school supplies. And a lot of those, again, went to like Girl Scout leaders, small businesses, things like that. As far as how you can help, the biggest way that you can help, well, I wouldn't say the biggest, but one of the biggest ways you can help is to volunteer at one of our events. So we have the events, this year we'll have 6 different electronics recycling events, and we just need kind of all hands on deck to help empty cars out, to get the recycle or the electronics to where they've got to go, and the big Gaylord boxes and things like that. And then also just helping during our regular operating hours. Again, when you come into our place, we've got volunteers there to help people get things to where they need to go. We can't do that unless we actually have volunteers. We had 120 people just this last Saturday for the 4 hours we were open. So that kind of gives you, an idea. It can be really busy, but there's that mantra of many hands make light work. So the more help that we get, the smoother things go just in general. And then you can also bring items to us for reuse or recycling. Right now, our fall and winter hours are Thursdays from 12 to 6 and Saturdays from 10 to 2. And then we do have additional volunteer hours kind of outside of the open hours there. You can just kind of look on our website, what's listed there. And then you can just find it on our website. Also, there's a link on our Facebook page for volunteers. And then you can also make a monetary donation. Just to give you kind of an idea of where we are budget wise, our rent for both the 4th floor and kind of the small area that we have downstairs is about $47,000 a year. So that's a large chunk of our budget. And then just other monetary donations help us ship things, help us, take things to pay for our gas, basically to take things to the UPS store when we're shipping out Terracycle items, things like that. And then you can help us spread the word about what we're doing. And that could be word of mouth, that could be sharing things on social media. And then if you know of somebody who could be a potential sponsor, whether it's a small business, large business, or another donor, and just kind of let them know about us and what we're doing, and that we could always use help, that would be much appreciated. And then here's my contact information, and then also the information for the hub just in general. If you have any questions, we're always happy to answer emails, phone calls, and things like that. And I did actually forward this information to Elise too, so she can put the information out there. And then again, if it's put on YouTube, then it will be there as well. So I'll stop sharing now so we can answer any questions that are out there. Okay.
Okay, so I am actually going to answer this question that Mary already answered. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate that. So there was a question about recycling candle jars, empty candle jars. And of course, get rid of the wax first. You can either boil it out, or what I've done is freezing the wax out. I think that works really well. It's a little easier. So get rid of the wax first. And then Mary has answered that you can curbside recycle the empty candle glass jars. And she says, of course, it's important to clean out all that wax as much as possible. And so curbside recycling is best for the empty, cleared out candle jars.
And just to give people kind of another thing to think about too, if things can go curbside, we might be able to take them as well, because like we do have, actually there's a Terracycle for, I think it's Newell, Newell brands candles. But if it can go curbside, it's better to go curbside, because then we're not using the resources to send it to New Jersey or Illinois to be processed. So you kind of have to think about that as part of the life cycle of those items as well.
Yes. All right. And then I'm going to start from the top and go with Connie's question. So she said, for the zero landfill items, do the items have to be full boxes of items, or will you take partial quantities?
We can take partial quantities. Okay. And I know, I think Building Value and maybe Habitat for Humanity both have, I think it's a 40 square foot minimum that they will take, and we will take anything, because so a lot of what we have that artists take, they're not necessarily tiling a floor or anything like that. We've had some people that took a single tile and then they turn that into, a plaque or something like that. So it's really, kind of the sky's the limit based on people's creativity. So they can do things with 1 or 2, they can do things with 20 of them. It's kind of interesting to see what people have come up with.
That's fantastic. Okay. And then she also wonders, would this include roof shingles as well?
We would not be taking roof shingles. So that would be something where if they are still usable, to contact Building Value or Habitat for Humanity to see if they would be able to take those.
Okay. Great. Okay, next question. Do you have heat on the 4th floor during winter? I think
we do have heat. We do have heat. The landlord keeps it a little bit low, but we do have heat. We tend to wear layers, but part of it is if you're working up there and you're kind of walking all over, you tend to keep warm. It's a little bit colder, I will say, down on the 1st floor. When we had the intake on Thursday last week, it got so cold. I was sorting batteries and I got to the point I couldn't feel my fingers. But it's one of those things where, as long as you keep moving, it's not usually too bad. I keep thinking somebody somewhere has it worse than we do. So yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for all that you do. My goodness. Okay. Next question from Kathleen Myers. Okay. Don't let that wax go down the drain. Yes. Okay. Kathleen had some experience with that, it seems. Okay. And let's see. Kay asked, can you also turn them into jars to use around the house? Okay, that was for the candles. Thank you. Okay. I'm having a little trouble with this. There we go. Okay. So Jane asks, so she's saying that Rumpke now takes butter and yogurt tubs, etc. Yes.
Yeah.
But do they take the clear plastic tubs that you get at the deli that contain like chicken salad, coleslaw?
Those would need to come to us.
Those would come to
and actually, I need to be very clear about something too. We do not take #1 plastics right at this point. They had been going to Brightmark, but Brightmark's recycling process relies on low oxygen, basically low oxygen, high temperature. And when you heat #1s up, they release oxygen. And what happens when you have oxygen in high temperatures? Things catch on fire. So we cannot take #1s right now. We're trying to find another outlet for them. We found a potential place that is in California. So we're just still kind of trying to work out some details, whether we can send them to them or not. So no #1s right now, but as soon as we can take them again, which I'm hoping will be soon, that will be on our website and our Facebook page and all of our social media.
Right. Okay. And that answers the question that says, am I correct that #1 clamshell packaging is not something you take?
Correct.
And that's currently right now.
Yeah. But also be aware too, that just because it's a clamshell doesn't mean it's a #1. It could also be a 5, it could be a 6. So just, you have to look.
All right. Where is the best place to take old textiles, such as clothes that are too old and torn, to take to the donation center? Okay. So more like material.
So if something's ripped, then you can still put it in a bag that says non-resellable textiles. And we've been told it's a little bit of a nebulous area right now, because some people have said, yes, I've tried to take them there and they wouldn't take them. And some people have said, yes, they took them, no problem. So we've been told if you put them in a bag that says non-resellable textiles, they can go to Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul, and then they sell those in bulk to a textile recycler. If you have been told that they cannot take them, we don't know of anywhere else to take them either, unfortunately, at this point.
Okay.
And that's one of the, and if you know of a place that will definitely take them, let us know.
Somebody answer if you know this, but yeah, so label it.
Yeah,
but very clearly, and make sure you check.
Yeah, so that they don't have to go through everything again to find out, is there anything, resellable in here or not.
Okay, and do you have to pay to reuse things from your warehouse, such as tiles?
No, so everything is basically for free. We're always happy to get donations for it, but it's sort of, pay what you can. But if it's one, if you're a Girl Scout leader and you need to get stuff for crafts or whatever, we are not going to charge you to be able to do that. We're just happy that it's found another home.
Awesome. Right. And can you take the plastic cover off a purchased item after we peel off the cardboard back?
Usually, yes, it kind of depends. If it's something where if it's vinyl that's harder to recycle, we can still take that. But I'm thinking if they're talking,
I'm trying to
that's the only thing
picture.
yeah. And it's slightly nebulous too, if it's something where it's a mixed materials where say there would still be paper or something on it, then we probably could not take it.
Right.
But most things, if you can get just the plastic off, then we can take the plastic.
Okay.
And if there's more specifics on that, I can give more specific answers.
I think, Amy, I think you did that question. If you have more specifics on it, you can type that in the chat or the Q&A. Okay, Laura's question: can businesses bring old tile, flooring samples, cabinet knobs, and countertop samples?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually because we now have the cargo van as well, we can actually pick them up. There is a $250 charge to do that though, just kind of for our time and gas and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, and then Chris says, how about computer batteries?
Yeah, so we can take pretty much any battery. It can add up quickly. Say if you've got a uninterruptible power supply, this can be very heavy, and at $2 a pound, that can add up very quickly. But any computer, like lithium batteries and things like that, those are $6 a pound when we take those. But actually, if they're still attached to the computer, then that would just fall under the $10 for everything in your car. And this is getting into sort of the weeds of the fees structure. But as long as you don't have any TVs, computer monitors, or anything with refrigerant, or any like the batteries, light bulbs, smoke detectors, you could have an entire carload that would be $10, and that could be tablets, cell phones, blenders, microwaves, printers, CPUs, all of that would be $10. If the battery is separate, we have to send that to Veolia, so we have to package that separately. That would have to be a $6 per pound charge.
Okay. Let's see, the next question. Plastic film. Okay, so clarifying, plastic film or items like bread wrappers, clean Ziploc bags, etc. Are those okay?
Yeah, so we can take those. They can also go to Kroger, and it's like we prefer that they go to Kroger if you're going to Kroger, but if it's more convenient for you to drop them off just in one place to us, we can take that as well. Okay.
And then, okay, anonymous person says 5 PP tubs. I assume that means polypropylene?
Yeah.
Tubs? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So polypropylene tubs, that would go to curbside recycling, unless again, it's the deli kind. But if it's, yogurt or actually even the individual macaroni and cheese, if you take kind of that outer wrapping off and it's just the tub itself, that can go in your curbside too as well.
Yeah, which is great. Okay, and then, I had somebody who just asked, can you clarify the tubs and lids that can go to Rumpke versus the hub? And that would be there.
Yeah.
So,
and actually too, so when you're sending those tubs to Rumpke, keep the lid on them. The lid may not also be a number 5, but they kind of sort that down on their end. But if the lid is separate, it needs to come to us because it will fall through Rumpke's machinery.
And then we have somebody who said the Goodwill took the non-sellable textiles.
All textiles.
That's great. Okay. And do you take old suitcases?
That would be something where if it's still usable, that should go to like a Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul. If it's not in good condition, that's where it gets a little bit more nebulous, because it's like, I'd be tempted to take it to say, somebody could use this for the leather or the plastic or what have you. But to be honest, that's opening a wormhole or a rabbit hole that we can't afford to go down because we only have a limited amount of space. So if it's not usable, that would just be garbage, unfortunately, at this point.
Okay. And where's a good place to recycle bed pillows? This person has contacted the local humane society and animal shelter, and they will not take them.
So if you're talking like the pillows themselves, the fluffy part in the middle, if they are still in decent condition, that would be meaning like not stained, no bed bugs, that kind of stuff. That could go in with the unresellable textiles to Goodwill.
And we have a person who's curious what you do with the Swedish fish and the hulls under
Okay.
the Terracycle.
Yeah, so those just go to Terracycle. So Swedish Fish, whatever they're, maybe it's just called Swedish Fish Company, and Halls, they actually pay for the recycling of their packaging. So that goes to Terracycle.
Awesome.
Yep.
And why are so many stores still using clamshells considering they're not recyclable?
Yeah,
I've seen
that's a really good question. Yeah, actually, so when we were taking number ones, that was what we got the most of. We would sometimes get 5 Gaylords. And again, we're talking, a big box that fits on a pallet, up to your chest, basically. 5 of those on just the 2 or 3 days that we were open every week. It's kind of astounding the number of number ones there are in the world. They're harder to recycle than polypropylene, but they are cheaper for them to use. Yeah.
It is very frustrating. I would also drive to a place that sells them in shells. Okay. And what about Amazon type pouches?
So if you have Amazon pouches where they are all plastic, so like bubble wrap inside and kind of a plastic liner outside, if you cut the label off, then we can put that in with what we call the store film, or that could go to Kroger. If it still has the label on, that would go in what we just call our other flexible film, basically, because that little bit of paper is considered contamination when it's going to the company that Kroger uses for their bag recycling. If it is a pack or a pouch that's paper on the outside and bubble wrap on the inside, we have not found any place that can take that. So that is just trash, unfortunately.
And we have Shelly who says the North Face outlet at Premium Outlets in Monroe will also take textiles. Awesome.
Good. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, that's good. I did not know that. Okay, what about mixed materials such as Pringles cans with like the inside is kind of the
and those are kind of hard. So we get those, and there's a lot that are that nuts come in and things like that. The only way that we could take the metal from that is if somebody takes the time to literally sort of unwrap the cardboard tube part, and then from that you have to peel off the foil kind of inner lining. The foil inner lining would just go to the trash. The cardboard part would go to Rumpke Recycling, and then we would take the metal on the top and bottom.
Interesting. They're tricky ones. Why do they have to put them in different?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and we have Marge who says, do you have to be a Hamilton County resident to donate?
No, you can be from anywhere. We've actually had people from, there was a guy who came down, and at the very beginning when we were open, we were collecting zip codes to see where people were from. And he wrote something down, and I'm like, where the heck is that? And he's like, Cleveland. I'm like, please tell me you didn't come all the way from Cleveland just to recycle. And he said, no, I'm coming to visit my sister in whatever part of town. And when he saw it, that we existed, he was just like, I'm bringing a whole car load down every time I go visit my sister. So that's what he did. So you can be from anywhere.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. I have Amy who says, okay, example of cardboard back plastic front might be a pack of batteries. Okay, I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, so that's something, if you can actually take the plastic part off of the cardboard part, the cardboard should go in Rumpke, and then we can take the plastic.
Yes. Okay.
Yep, perfect example. And that's what there's a lot of like action figures and things like that. They're the same kind of thing.
Yeah. A lot at Christmas time. Definitely a big time for that.
Yep.
Emily says, is there a reduced fee for nonprofits donating items, specifically electronics?
Not really, but we try to make it sort of as basically user-friendly, I guess, as possible, for lack of a better word. So part of it is that we can only reduce so far before we go out of business, basically. So we try to give breaks when we can. But if you've got monitors and TVs and things like that, those are very expensive for us to recycle. So we kind of still have to charge for that. But it, basically, if it's something where you really have no budget, send me an email and we'll see what we can do. And maybe it would be something where we give you a break. So it's literally at whatever our cost is.
Absolutely. Okay. And oh, Laura, you said our website states that Cantor Battery will take single-use batteries at no charge. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, something you need to watch out for that though is you need to find out where they're going with those batteries, because some people are okay with throwing alkaline batteries in the trash. We are not. So we pay a little bit extra to make sure they actually get recycled.
And then Sue says, can we take saran wrap and plastic wrap without a recycle symbol to Kroger?
No, so you could take plastic wrap if it's what's considered sort of stretch wrap, but saran wrap is actually PVC, so that would have to come to us.
Right. And then we have an anonymous person who said, try Hope's Closet for the suitcases. That is a really awesome spot to take items like that, because they are used for kids in foster care, which is wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Just added that to our list.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you. Some down pillow fill can be placed in compost. That is true. Some of it can. A lot of pillows do not always have that.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like polyester. So yeah.
But some of it can, absolutely. And how about foil food trays or clean aluminum foil?
Yeah, as long as it's clean and it's dry, that can come to us. So that cannot go in your Rumpke recycling, but the company, basically we send it to Recycle Force. So that's our electronics recycling company that we work with. They can take all of them. They send them to smelters who melt it down and make it into new products.
Okay. Let's see. Exchange taking stuff from businesses for volunteer hours. I like that. Exchange taking stuff from businesses for volunteer hours. Well, it sometimes works that way. Not always.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's one of those things where we still have to pay our rent. So yeah.
Okay. And what can be done with furnace filters? Plastic water filters.
Yeah, those are hard items. So the furnace filters, especially because theoretically we could take the cardboard part from the outside of it, but the filter part itself would just have to be garbage. We have not found any place that can take those. For the water filters, it's the same thing. That was one that we expected that we'd be able to find a place that could take them. We can take Brita water filters and the pitchers and all of their packaging through the Terracycle collection for that, but any of the other ones like Pure and things like that, or just the kind that you get for your refrigerator, those unfortunately are just garbage at this point. We thought that wouldn't be hard because it's basically just activated charcoal and plastic, but we haven't found any company that can reuse that.
It's tricky. And we have Mary who says family and children's services can also take usable luggage so that children in foster care can put their things in luggage. Definitely. And I believe the last one, I'll check the chat as well, but our last one in the Q&A is, how about red Solo cups? And
yes, we can take those. Yep, that's a specific. Actually, so the Terracycle is not just limited to Solo cups. It's any number 6 cup. So not the small things that you might get like condiments in, but actual cups that are number 6 we can take.
And I have a question. I've had a couple people asking me about Starbucks cups, because those are really, they're everywhere. And they're often found misplaced in the recycling, like curbside recycling.
And they are just garbage, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll stop using those. Okay. All
yeah, because
right.
if it's a paper with a plastic or kind of waxy liner, that's just garbage, unfortunately, because it's hard to recycle because it's mixed materials.
All right. And so looking through the chat, we've got through a few of those before, but some more suggestions for textiles is ThreadUp, Oxford, Oxford, Ohio. That is a good one. There are a couple dozen types of film that grocers take. Yes. Dozens of types of tubs. Definitely you have to pay attention to what tub. With the numbers. Okay. We've answered these. You do not have to be a Hamilton County resident to donate. let's see, Goodwill and Blue Ash is good for textiles. Just have to check with them. Make sure to just always check with whatever place you're donating to. And then Warren County on their website suggests putting batteries in the trash. Ooh.
Yeah. And we discourage that because that's going to sit in the landfill for a couple hundred years.
Don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And one more person is saying that ThreadUp in Oxford is not taking textiles until at least February.
Okay.
But check their Facebook for updates. Thank you. Okay. And I believe that is it for the chat and the Q&A. Uh-oh. Not yet. Okay. Even the Starbucks lid. Yes.
So the Starbucks lid, if it actually is a number 6, we could take that because there are a lot of coffee lids that are 6s that we could take.
Okay.
And some of those two are a bit tricky. Just lids in general can be tricky because they don't always have the recycling triangle on them. But they might have things like, I know McDonald's, they will say PP5 or 5 PP. So that's 5 polypropylene. So we can take that. And then there's another one that I just saw yesterday. I can't remember where it was from, but it basically said PS6. So that's polystyrene. So that's a 6. So we can take those, even though if they're not in the triangle. If it says PP and PS with a 5 or 6 next to it, that's probably actually the type of plastic they are. So.
Okay. That's good to know. So, okay, 2 more. We might have some more, but right now we have a question about unused or used plastic utensils. Where would those go?
Yeah, so those can come to us. And actually, if you have some that are unused, that are still wrapped, we collect those and then we give those to about 4 different food pantries.
Okay.
But then if they have been used, then there's a whole thing just for the unwrapped utensils, and then those go to Brightmark for recycling.
Awesome. Okay. Last one. What about aerosol cans?
Aerosol cans, if they're not hazardous materials, so if it's hairspray or cooking spray or something like that, you take the tip off and then that can will go into Rumpke recycling. If it is something that is hazardous, like some sort of a glue, sealant, something like that, that actually would have to go to Environmental Enterprises on Spring Grove Avenue at Winton Road. And look on their website because they've got some strange hours where I want to say it's like 7 to 11 on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that. And you will have to pay actually for that. Last time I looked, I think it was $35 for up to 100 pounds of hazardous waste. So that could include gasoline, kerosene, paint. If it is latex paint, though, just let it dry out and then that can go in your regular trash. But if you've got any oil-based paint, any turpentine, any of that kind of stuff, that would all go to Environmental Enterprises. Same for helium tanks too. If you've got like a helium tank from a party to blow up balloons or something.
Okay.
Which we recommend against in the first place, but if you've done it, you've got one, that's where it goes.
And okay, one more question. Plastic caps from containers that go to Rumpke. The little plastic loops from the plastic. Okay, so first, plastic caps from containers that go to Rumpke.
Yeah, so some of those, if it is a, say it's like a screw cap bottle or something like that, that would go to Rumpke, that plastic cap can stay on when it goes to Rumpke. If for whatever reason it's separate, then it can come to us. We have one collection for small caps that we actually send away to Green Tree Plastic to make benches. We haven't actually sent anything to them yet because we've had a lot of schools saying, hey, we're trying to make benches and we need an extra 50 pounds. So we give it to them so that they can finish theirs. But we can collect those. And then I think the second thing is probably like the little pull tab from inside, like a milk container kind of thing, where you've got kind of the plastic cap sticking out of a carton, but then you have to pull that little seal out. So that would still come to us. And then that would go in the bin that's just marked what we call no number plastic. So plastic that does not have, in some cases it's not big enough to have a triangle on it. In some cases it just does not. So that could go, that could come to us and go in our no number plastic and then still be shipped up to Brightmark for recycling.
Okay, awesome. All right, I think that is it.
Okay.
And we are close to time. So if anybody has last minute questions, now is the time.
But if you think of something 5 minutes after we're done, you can always send us an email as well.
Right. And remember, check the Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub website. They have very detailed lists of what you can and cannot bring and what is free and what is not free to donate.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of questions on Facebook too. So you can kind of go back through old
Yes.
too.
Yes.
With the caveat
before you
that
send
sometimes
email-
things change between now and then, but depending on, if Terracycle says, okay, we're not collecting, like I think we took Oreo packaging for a month and then they said, okay, that's one away.
Right, exactly. Okay, and Matthew 25 Ministries accepts paint, correct?
They will take latex paint as long as it's still in usable condition. Yeah. And they actually have a reblending sort of process so that other nonprofits can take and use that. Yeah.
Okay. And quick reminder, I will be sending out the recording to all who have registered for this, not just the ones who attended, but everybody who registered. And I'm hoping to get this up on YouTube either today or tomorrow. And I will send that link with that as well. So you will have access to the PowerPoint. I'll attach that and I will send the recorded version or the link to the YouTube version in the next 2 days to all who have registered. So you'll have all that access to the information. And yeah, if you have any questions, email Colleen, or if you have questions that pertain to resource, email me. And I can always connect you with Colleen if necessary. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time to engage and ask all your questions today. And with that, anything else, Colleen?
Nope. Just say thanks for all the good questions. Thanks for listening and hope to see you all at the hub.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a good rest of the week.